presidential poll. And Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir directs the country's police to use minimal force against protesters. Hello and welcome to Africa Live, only on CGTN. I'm Karen Roberts, live in Nairobi. Rama joins me now with all your business headlines.
Thank you very much, Karen. Here's what's coming up in the course of the hour. 2/3 of Tanzania's Forex Bureau to be locked out of business for non-compliance with new laws. And Cairo hosts the second edition of the Food Africa exhibition. The details of the stories and lots more coming your way in the course of the hour. For now, though, let's start with the latest in current affairs with Karen.
Thank you very much, Rama. On the eve of 2019, Chinese President Xi Jinping sent his New Year's message to the nation, including his expectations for the next 12 months.
On the eve of the new year, Chinese President Xi Jinping sends via China Media Group and the Internet his message for 2019.
同志们、朋友们、女士们、先生们，大家好！岁月不居，时节如流。2019年马上就要到了，我在北京向大家致以新年的美好祝福。2018年，我们过得很充实，走得很坚定。这一年，我们战胜各种风险挑战，推动经济高质量发展。加快新旧动能转换，保持经济运行在合理区间，蓝天碧水净土保卫战顺利推进，各项民生事业加快发展，人民生活持续改善，京津冀协同发展，长江经济带发展，粤港澳大湾区建设等国家战略稳步实施。我在各地考察时，欣喜地看到长江两岸绿意盎然，建三江万亩大地浩，稻浪滚滚；深圳前海生机勃勃，上海张江活力四射。港珠澳大桥飞架3地，这些成就是全国各族人民撸起袖子干出来的，是新时代奋斗者挥洒汗水拼出来的。这一年，中国制造、中国创造、中国建造共同发力，继续改变着中国的面貌。嫦娥4号探测器成功发射，第2艘航母出海试航，国产大型水陆两栖飞机水上首飞，北斗导航向全球组网迈出坚实一步。在此，我要向每一位科学家、每一位工程师、每一位大国工匠、每一位建设者和参与者致敬。这一年，脱贫攻坚传来很多好消息，全国又有125个贫困县通过验收脱贫，1000万农村贫困人口摆脱贫困，17种抗癌药降价并纳入医保目录，因病致贫问题正在进一步得到解决。我时常牵挂着奋战在脱贫一线的同志们，280多万 驻村干部、第一书记，工作很投入，很给力，一定要保重身体。我始终惦记着困难群众。在四川凉山三河村，我看望了彝族村民基好野球、杰烈额阿木2家人。在山东济南3涧7村，我和赵顺利一家围坐一起拉家常。在辽宁抚顺东华园社区，我到陈玉芳家里了解避险搬迁安置情况。在广东清远连章村，我和贫困户陆一河交谈脱贫之际，他们真诚朴实的面容至今浮现在我的脑海。新年之际，祝乡亲们的生活蒸蒸日上，越过越红火。这一年，我们隆重庆祝改革开放40周年，对党和国家机构进行了系统性、整体性、重构性的改革，推出100多项重要改革举措，举办首届中国国际进口博览会，启动建设海南自由贸易试验区。世界看到了改革开放的中国加速度，看到了将改革开放进行到底的中国决心。我们改革的脚步不会停滞，开放的大门只会越开越大。我注意到，今年恢复高考后的第一批大学生大多已经退休，大批00后进入高校校园，1亿多非户籍人口在城市落户的行动正在继续，1300万人在城镇找到了工作，解决棚户区问题的住房开工了580万套，新市民有了温暖的家，很多港澳台居民拿到了居住证，香港进入了全国高铁网。一个流动的中国，充满了繁荣发展的活力。我们都在努力奔跑，我们都是追梦人。此时此刻，我特别要提到一些闪亮的名字。今年天上多了颗南人东星，全军英模卦象里多了林俊德和张超2位同志。我们要记住守岛卫国32年的王继才同志，为保护试验平台挺身而出、壮烈牺牲的黄群、宋岳才、江开斌同志，以及其他为国为民捐躯的英雄们。他们是新时代最可爱的人，永远值得我们怀念和学习。这一年，又有很多新老朋友来到中国。我们举办了博鳌亚洲论坛年会、上海合作组织青岛峰会、中非合作论坛北京峰会等主场外交活动，提出了中国主张，发出了中国声音。我和同事们出访5大洲，参加了许多重要外交活动，同各国领导人进行了广泛交流，巩固了友谊，增进了信任，扩大了我们的朋友圈。2019年，我们将隆重庆祝中华人民共和国70周年华诞。70年披荆斩棘，70年风雨兼程。人民是共和国的坚实根基，人民是我们执政的最大底气。 一路走来，中国人民自力更生、艰苦奋斗，创造了举世瞩目的中国奇迹。新征程上，不管乱云飞渡、风吹浪打，我们都要紧紧依靠人民，坚持自力更生、艰苦奋斗，以坚如磐石的信心、只争朝夕的劲头、坚韧不拔的毅力，一步一个脚印，把前无古人的伟大事业推向前进。2019年有机遇，也有挑战，大家还要一起拼搏，一起奋斗。减税降费政策措施要落地生根，让企业轻装上阵。要真诚尊重各种人才，充分激发他们创新创造活力。要倾听基层干部心声，让敢担当、有作为的干部有干劲、有奔头。农村1000多万贫困人口的脱贫任务要如期完成，还得咬定目标，使劲干。要关爱退役军人，他们为保家卫国做出了贡献。这个时候，快递小哥、环卫工人、出租车司机以及千万万的劳动者还在辛勤工作。我们要感谢这些美好生活的创造者、守护者，大家辛苦了。放眼全球，我们正面临100年未有之大变局。无论国际风云如何变幻，中国维护国家主权和安全的信心和决心不会变，中国维护世界和平、促进共同发展的诚意和善意不会变。我们将积极推动共建“一带一路”，继续推动构建人类命运共同体，为建设一个更加繁荣美好的世界而不懈努力。新年的钟声即将敲响，让我们满怀信心和期待，一同迎接2019年的到来。祝福中国，祝福世界，谢谢大家。
Well, the year 2019 has already begun with a bang in China, Australia and New Zealand. Revellers bid 2018 goodbye and ushered in the new year with merriment. Let's now begin with a look at how Beijing ushered in the new year.
来，全场准备！9、8、7、6、5、4、3。
Sydney ushered in the new year in grand style. More than 1 million people lined the world-famous Sydney Harbour to watch the biggest fireworks display the city had ever seen. The display featured a gold, silver and purple tribute to the late Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. According to organisers, the 12-minute fireworks spectacle used 8.5 tonnes of fireworks, 500 kilograms more than last year. Meanwhile, New Zealanders were amongst the first in the world to celebrate the arrival of 2019. An impressive firework arrangement erupted from Auckland's 328-metre tall Sky Tower. The show featured 500 kilograms of pyrotechnics and is the highest fireworks display in the Southern Hemisphere. Well, from Nigeria to South Africa, Egypt and Uganda, Africans have been reflecting on the year that was and voicing their hopes and aspirations for 2019.
I'm hoping that we have a safe elections. It's an election year. I hope we don't get to see all the violence and everything that makes the whole election process very, very bad or very terrible. I hope we see good transition. I hope we see winners that would accept their fate or losers that will accept their fate. I just want a peaceful state for Nigeria in 2019.
I have dreams to produce very good clothes, because since I'm in the business of clothing the nation, I want to do much better than I've done this year. I want to be able to produce something good, and that is if my government will aid me. Because we need steady light supply, we need good governance. When they talk about change, let it be real change.
The government, since the 2019 elections, they must stop propaganda, then they should fulfill their promises on what they tell us they're going to do for us after 2019, whoever who wins the elections.
And my hopes for the country, I like the way the country is going on under President Ramaphosa. He's cutting corruption, and I just hope our economy, can just keep going well, doing well, because it will be good for both of us. Really big hope is for, the country, the education system to be run better than it is now, especially on the security. Kids are being killed in the schools. So like every day when my kids go to school, I'm worried, are they going to come back alive?
2018 was a good year for me. It was my first year in college. It was a different year and I enjoyed it. I wish the cost of living decreased. Transportation and food also. They take the major share of my allowance.
We've seen President LCC do so many projects, but inflation rates are burdening us. As youth, we work 2 jobs to make a living. I hope next year will be better. We can make a decent living. I've applied for a youth loan to make a small business. I hope the government would accept to fund my project.
2019 will still be a very fast year for the news. We're very much a country that's in the middle of political transition, in the middle of political conversations on the future. And noting how 2018 has ended, there's going to be a lot of electioneering in the coming year. We expect a lot of geopolitical news because of the Burundi influence, the Rwanda influence on Uganda, and how that will shape how our political leaders react to them. So there's going to be a lot of geopolitical news, but we also expect a lot of news on the social scene, particularly the fact that Ugandans are happy people and they like to party, so there's going to be a lot of things happening socially. Yeah, so in a bag and a mix, it will be everything also. Yeah.
We are looking forward to a better 2019 with lesser, maybe hopefully, emergencies, given that now we have a peace deal signed in South Sudan, and we will, of course, continue providing life-saving assistance to refugees and further strengthen our refugee response.
Time for a quick break now. Coming up, we update you on the situation in DR Congo a day after the country held a critical presidential poll. And Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir directs the country's police to use minimal force against protesters.
You don't find the stories of North Africa by sitting on the sidelines. You've got to get out, go there, and you'll find them. In the bazaars of Casablanca, among the crowds in Cairo,
who come to visit Cairo, the ancient capital of Egypt,
along the waters of the Nile, along the sands of the Sahara. No one else will take you where we can in North Africa. No one else will show you what it's all about. CGTN, see the difference.
My home country lies at the foot of Africa, the southernmost tip of our beautiful continent and the unique point at which two great oceans meet. Now on a clear day in Cape Town, you can just make out Robben Island, the place where Nelson Mandela was jailed for so long. South Africa has changed so much in the years since then, but it is this country's history that shaped me and took me into reporting. I'm inspired by Africa's men and women of courage. It's the everyday hero who brings out my passion. The creatives, the decision makers, the risk takers who are shaping a bright African future. I see them in Cape Town. I see them in the pulsating city of Johannesburg. I see them across the continent, and I know our time has come.
CGTN is a platform where African voices can speak for themselves and take their stories to the world. My name is Lindy Mtongana, and I'm a news anchor and reporter for CGTN.
To the DRC, where Electoral Commission officials have begun counting ballots after Sunday's vote. The polls were marred by delays and missing voter rolls in some polling stations. CGTN's Chris Ochemringa has more.
Vote counting is underway in the Democratic Republic of Congo, a day after the long-delayed polls were held. Voting went well into the night due to delays in delivering election materials. Some areas had missing voter rolls and malfunctioned voting machines. Polls closed on Sunday in most parts of the country, but the Electoral Commission extended the exercise in polling centers like this one in the Ngaliema neighborhood to allow people who failed to vote because of the late delivery of materials to do so. Observers from the Catholic Church commended the Electoral Commission for organizing the polls.
The polling stations were open to all people, and the exercise generally went well.
But there were reports of violence in the eastern part of the country, which left 4 people dead.
I'm very happy about how the voting went.
The elections went very well. I'm happy.
The provisional results will be announced within a week, and the final one on January the 15th. The new president will be sworn in 3 days later. Chris Ochemringa, CGTN, Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo.
Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir has called on security forces in the country to exercise restraint with protesters. This as the UN called for a probe into the violent protests which have left at least 19 people dead. The protests in Sudan were triggered by fuel shortages and a spike in food prices that saw the cost of bread double in the past year.
It is the duty of the state to maintain security without abuse and to implement internal security principles using the least possible force. The purpose is not to kill the people, but the ultimate goal is to maintain the security and stability for the citizens.
The protests, which started on December the 19th, have been taking place in the capital, Khartoum, Atbara, Port Sudan and Madani over the past week. The demonstrations coincide with worsening economic conditions, including currency devaluation and fuel shortages. Many of the protesters involved have been women, teenagers and students. Collecting and distributing donations as well as preparing food for the needy are the main tasks and objectives of Red Vests in Tunisia. Some volunteers have created a network of social workers who help the most vulnerable and the homeless in Tunisia.
These volunteers are cooking tasty meals for strangers they have never met. They are united for the homeless and the unlucky people who were rejected by the Tunisian society.
We provide assistance to elderly people, the handicapped, single mothers and citizens who come to Tunis for medical treatment. Those who have nowhere to go. Social emergency is a priority for the state and the civil society.
Tunisia's Red Vests do not only feed the poor and needy, they are also providing support for those experiencing homelessness during the cold winter nights. Finding a shelter is almost impossible without their assistance.
Saber is in his mid-30s. Every night, the man's main quest is to look for shelter in downtown Tunis. He has been abandoned by his family. However, these volunteers always remember to visit Saber before going home.
I have lived in the streets for 9 years. My health is deteriorating. I thank the volunteers for providing food and medical treatment. They are my friends and family. I hope to find a permanent shelter and a job. I don't want to spend my life in the streets.
The Red Vests are working under the umbrella association United for Humanity. Hiba and her colleagues are extremely vigilant, especially while working with children who have been abandoned by their parents.
Children are very vulnerable. We talk to them and sometimes play the role of their relatives. In addition to having food and a shelter, which is a universal right, kids can also succeed at school and have a better life. We must encourage them and give them hope.
Tunisia's Red Vests are active in 4 regions across the country. Some volunteers and donors were former homeless people who have succeeded in life after facing social and economic difficulties. Adnan Shawishi, CGTN, Tunis.
Nigeria's contemporary artists are often influenced by the country's rich cultural diversity. In Jos, Plateau State, an artist is using his exhibition to focus on the current feud between farmers and herders, clashes which have claimed thousands of lives in north-central Nigeria. CGTN's Samson Omale reports.
Onoja Jacob has been painting since he was 11. He has spent a better part of his life in Jos, north-central Nigeria. This exhibition is about the city's unique landscape, which mirrors the devastating consequence of violence and internally displaced persons.
This painting is titled Deserted Fortress, and principally I'm just trying to discuss issues happening on the Jos Plateau, that's in Nigeria. The issues of conflicts has caused several communities to be ravaged, and of course so many people have left their homes, and you can see this whole place is deserted, beautiful landscape, but there is just no figure here.
And the exhibition speaks about the innocence of nature. If you look at the paintings, there's a sense in which nature is indifferent to religion, it's indifferent to ethnicity.
At the Jos Museum of Traditional Nigerian Architecture, which houses different works of visual arts, artistic expression here differ in techniques, ideas, materials, and subject matter.
Nigeria visual artists are gradually introducing themes in their paintings and exhibitions that are largely addressing contemporary matters of human concerns, which are sometimes local but often global.
Currently in our nation, art is actually liberating, because looking at the medical field, there are instances where we use art as therapy for people that are having some form of psychosomatic disorders. Beyond the practice of art to enjoy what art is actually a form of economic liberation to so many people.
This painter's approach is using exhibitions to give voice to the varied and changing cultural landscape of identities, values, beliefs, and the failure of leadership in Nigeria. Samson Omale, CGTN, Jos, Nigeria.
Well, now it's time for all the business news. Here's Rama.
Thank you very much, Karen. Here's what's coming up in business. 2/3 of Tanzania's Forex Bureau to be locked out of business due to non-compliance with the country's laws. And Cairo hosts the second edition of the Food Africa exhibition.
Africa is the nexus of enterprise, and global business will tell you why it matters.
From the mega investment projects to multi-billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions.
Africa today collects just in terms of revenues from taxes alone $545 billion a year. If you take 10% of that and you devote it to the energy sector, problem solved.
All this on Global Business, weekdays at this time on CGTN.
Right, then let's start the segment in Tanzania, where only about a third or so of forex bureaus in the country have complied with a new law on the currency business in the country that essentially requires them to register afresh. About 109 out of 297 forex bureaus which existed before the start of the new registration requirements were passed have complied. The Finance and Planning Minister, Philip Mpango, says that 188 bureaus that did not meet the new threshold now do face deregistration. He named one of the conditions that disqualified some as the $43,400 or so to $130,000 minimum capital requirement for these entities to be placed in grade A, and another classification of $109,000 to over $400,000 in capital for these businesses to be registered as grade B. For the South, when the South African President Cyril Ramaphosa announced a task force to have oversight on the Eskom board and management in late December, the utility was in dire straits, with load shedding rapidly becoming a daily event. Here's CGTN's Angela Coppola with its update.
Load shedding has mostly been avoided since the middle of December, mainly because most businesses closed for the Christmas holidays and demand on the system has dropped significantly. The company also recently retrenched several senior executives. Others took a different approach.
Many of them have bite the bullet, and that's why they are willing to take a downgrade of their positions to a general manager level instead of executive level.
The task team has been monitoring management actions and will report back to President Ramaphosa at the end of January. This while the board and management attempt to develop a turnaround strategy.
Quite frankly, from our end, we don't have a view necessarily, because the shareholder has every right to do what they have to do in terms of helping this company.
The problems at Eskom seem to be unresolved, and it's very likely that when people return back to work in the middle of January, there are going to be road and blackouts. And this isn't good news for potential local and foreign investors.
But the investors want certainty, and one of the certainties, despite the political issues, they want certainty around small things like a security of power supply, and currently this company cannot give that.
I'm Angelo Coppola for CGTN in Johannesburg, South Africa.
From South Africa to Egypt now, the capital, Cairo, has hosted the second edition of the Food Africa exhibition. The event aims to create opportunities for agricultural producers to market their produce and increase trade flows within the continent. Here's CGTN's Yasser Hakim with more.
Over 300 companies from around 30 countries gathered in Cairo to showcase their products at the Food Africa Fair.
Trade fair is a huge opportunity not only for Egypt but for the African countries to work together on intra-trade among Africa, and also facilitation of trade with the world. It's an opportunity for all the sectors, also for countries and nations, and to present their potentials.
The products on display range from food to equipment and machinery for agricultural industries. Producers hope exhibitions such as this one would help increase their sales and marketing targets.
Our products have a good presence in the local market for some time now, and we are doing fine. We are here because our plans are to expand to the rest of the continent, enter new markets in Africa and Arab countries, and this is a good venue for doing so.
The fair also attracted many companies from outside the continent.
We have lots of traction from several countries, not only from Africa. We have visitors from Ukraine, visitors from Kenya, visitors from Brazil, visitors from Malaysia. The exhibition actually gives us opportunity to network with people from actually suppliers. We can meet with different suppliers from all over the globe. We can also explore export potentials to countries in the Middle East, in the MENA, or even in Far East Asia. So we have both advantages, either to find suppliers or to export to different countries.
Chinese producers had a strong showing as well.
Our main product is sunflower seeds, and the requirement of sunflower seeds in Egypt is very large. Even the raw material, not the roasted one. Yeah, but we do both the raw material and the roasted one with salted or fragrant and spicy or other flavors. From yesterday until now, many people and some of the potential customers come here. Yeah, and we think it's a better chance for us.
According to the UN, Africa has about 65% of the world's arable land. However, agricultural output stands at an average of only 2% of GDP per country, and Africa remains a net importer of food. Increasing food production is essential for the continent. At the African Union meetings, leaders have promised that starting 2019, they will allocate 10% of their state budgets for increasing agricultural production. Yes, Hakim for CGTN, Cairo.
2018 is the year that the world watched as a new Ethiopia emerged from troubled times. It saw decades of famine and conflict replaced with widespread political and socio-economic reforms. Economic and political analysts agree that continued stability, especially on the political front, will propel that country's economic growth quite a bit. Here's CGTN's Uche Okoronkwo now examining Ethiopia's wins in 2018 and what 2019 may hold for the East African nation.
Perhaps the biggest surprise of 2018 came in Ethiopia. Some economists are calling it the Abiy effect. Back in March, the appointment of new Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed pretty much upended the country's previous political, diplomatic and business systems following a lifting of a state of emergency. Abiy's move to defuse a conflict that has plagued the Horn of Africa for decades revived the possibility of an integrated Afro-Gulf region. Already, we've seen the practical implications of a peace deal with Eritrea. Ethiopian Airlines began daily flights between Asmara and Addis Ababa. Landlocked Ethiopia now has access to Eritrea's Red Sea ports. And Eritrean industries can now service the growing markets of its much larger and more populous southern neighbor. The peace deal will eventually benefit the wider sub-region. But of course, analysts point out that negotiations are still in their early stages, and the process is likely to take time. Abiy has also made a move to tweak Ethiopia's economic model, with a strategy that seems to evolve around state-backed development and an open and vibrant private sector. 2018 saw huge investments in infrastructure, specifically its standout project, the Grand Renaissance Dam. It will be the largest on the African continent and will house 2 power stations with a combined output of 15,000 gigawatt hours per year. The government also plans to offload shares in some of its major state enterprises, such as Ethio Telecom, Ethiopian Airlines, and electric and logistics firms. Abiy is also encouraging more foreign investment in its manufacturing industry, mainly into new industrial parks and privatization inflows. Currently, 15 industrial parks are in the pipeline, most of which were built and will be operated by Chinese companies. All this is why some economists are calling Ethiopia the new China. With cheap labor costs, it is angling to compete with India and China. Already, fashion brands like H&M, Guess, J.Crew and Naturalizer have established manufacturing centers in the country. And that is why it is now Africa's fastest growing economy. Growth is expected to step up in 2019, supported by stronger confidence as past uncertainties slowly disappear. But the IMF says there are risks to its outlook. Large external imbalances and the high risk of debt distress are some of the key threats that could constrain any future growth. Those can be managed by better fiscal responsibility. But in order to reshape its dynamics in the next decade, Abiy has to deliver on his promise for more inclusive political dialogue, as well as the opening up of its economy to private investment and competition. Uche Okoronkwo, CGTN.
I'll leave you there for the time being, but I'll be back at the top of the hour. We'll be taking a look at the prospects for sub-Saharan African economies in 2019, from the oil producers to the non-oil producers, to the service industry heavyweights, and of course plenty more. All that is coming up at 1800 GMT. See you then. For now though, back to Canada.
Thank you very much, Rama. Well, we are going to a short break. Don't go away. Lots more to come, including... We look back at how our correspondents covered major stories of the year as we bid farewell to 2018.
greatest journeys, the greatest sights, the greatest adventures.
Here in Kanata, this weir allows the locals to walk on water.
We're far more than just TV news. We're your passport to the wonders of Africa.
To bring you stories of struggle, survival and hope.
So let's explore. CGTN. See the difference.
Now let's take some time to reflect on the news that we broadcast during 2018. In East Africa, Tanzania featured prominently, from the ferry tragedy that killed over 200 passengers to conservation efforts, business milestones and many more stories, all covered on CGTN Africa. And the man who has been on that beat is Daniel Kijo. Here's his perspective as the year closes.
2018 has been a year of many ups and downs for Tanzania. We've had stories that have shook the country and the world, like the kidnapping of Tanzania's richest man, one of Africa's richest billionaires, Mohamed Dewji, where he was kidnapped outside his gym and he was gone for almost more than 2 weeks and eventually was found. But even him being found has left many questions unanswered. Another very sad story is the death of more than 200 people in the sinking of the MV Nyerere ferry in Ukara Island in the northern lake zone part of Tanzania. This was one of the hardest stories for me to cover. There was death all around the Ukara village, and there was a cloud of despair and sort of loss that I have never experienced in all my years of journalism. And with 2018 being a year of up and downs, we hear from Tanzanians on how they found this amazing, or maybe not so amazing, year.
My concern was to accomplish my studies, on which I did it.
For me, I had many plans, but I haven't been able to do much. This is due to the hard life I had in 2018.
We covered many sports stories like the Sekafa football tournament, qualifiers for the AFCON, boxing tournaments, and so much more. So we had amazing up and down in 2018, looking forward for even better 2019. From Tanzania, it is me, Daniel Kijo, reporting for CGTN.
Nabil Ahmed Rufai has been following up on events in Ghana for CGTN Africa. Let's now find out how his experience has been.
Ghana has a lot of stories to share with the rest of the world. So as a journalist, I'm always excited to tell my stories through the eyes of the people on the ground. Children and women are the most vulnerable in the society, and I'm passionate about telling their stories.
While working on the story on inclusive education in Ghana, I was touched by the story of Memunatu, whose only daughter, Naima, is not able to go to school because she has cerebral palsy. It's a situation many poor parents with disabled children face in Ghana, and I was determined to highlight this issue despite the shooting challenges we faced on location. The children in the house where we filmed kept interrupting the shooter. This made us take longer to film than we had planned. The story on breast cancer was one of the most challenging I worked on in 2018 because of my personal experience. My mother died from breast cancer in 2017, so working on this piece stirred up a lot of emotions. When Doris decided to share her experience, I kept picturing the state my mother was in before she died and couldn't hold back the tears. It was tough listening to her survival story and thinking I could have done something to prevent my mother from dying from breast cancer.
The government of Ghana is doing its bit to address children and gender-based issues with policies like the National Gender Policy, which seeks to empower the vulnerable groups, particularly women, children, and people with special needs. But implementing the policies face funding setbacks. I think a lot of resources have to be channeled towards addressing issues concerning women and children in Ghana, and this will require bold commitment on the part of government.
2018 has been very eventful for newsmakers in Ghana. and the public has always been there to speak to on issues that matters to them.
My highlight for 2018 was government's determination to sustain the free senior high school policy by introducing the double track system. We know in 2017 they had major challenges implementing the policy due to inadequate funding. So I'm hoping for major improvement in the education system in 2019.
2018 was a very tough year for us in Ghana. We lost one of our greatest icons, Kofi Annan, and also our past Vice President, Kwesi Atta. I'm hoping to see less of such deaths in 2019, and I hope to see massive development in Ghana in the next coming year.
2018 has been an exciting yet challenging year for me as a journalist. I look forward to 2019 with high expectations of reporting on stories that matter to the Ghanaian people. Nabil Ahmed Rufai, CGTN, Accra, Ghana.
Indeed, CGTN Africa reporters have had memorable times while covering various stories that shape the African continent. Here's CGTN Africa's business reporter, Sumitra Naidu, speaking about key events that she covered.
My highlight in 2018 was covering the controversial land issue. The Constitution is about to be amended to allow for land expropriation without compensation. I wanted to explore this, understand the history and how this will impact South Africans and the economy. I travelled to Badplaza and Mpumalanga in the eastern part of the country to spend some time with the community that had their land taken away from them during apartheid in 1913 to be precise. Many from that time perished without any justice. Some descendants finally received the land back some 80 years later. It was meant to be a story of triumph, which it was, because this community received the land back. So it was back in the late 1990s when the chief of the Ndwandwe community put in an application with government to reclaim this land. In 2004, the application was granted, and according to the title deeds, the chief received 23,000 hectares of land. But after spending time with the chief and his community as part of my case study, I realized the immense pain suffered, how people lost their land, their homes, their livelihoods, their dignity in an unjust and criminal manner. For me, this was an important story to unpack because it is massively complex. And even though this push for land reform is meant to deliver some justice, I don't think it's ever going to undo the crimes of the past and the physical and emotional damage it caused.
My highlight for the year was Barcelona coming to Mzansi. That was great. And recently Spins and Jay-Z.
On a personal level, it was definitely buying my new car. It was a dream come true. On a community, on a national government type level, definitely the SARS Commission, the Zondo Commission. I'm sincerely hoping that 2019 will see a wrap up of that. And those criminals that are responsible for state capture and for bringing down SOEs is put behind bars.
My highlight for 2018 was when I moved into my own apartment. Yeah, that was something else for me.
Still looking at the highlights of the events covered by CGTN correspondents around Africa in 2018, we go now to Yasser Hakim. He's our Egypt correspondent who's been focusing more on business and economic news. He tells us about his highlights for the year.
It's been a calm year in Egypt compared to the violence and upheavals that preceded the 2011 uprising. The focus in 2018 was mainly on economic reforms and mega projects aimed at improving the lives of Egyptians. But the most interesting stories for me were the Africa 2018 Forum coverage in Sharm el-Sheikh. I met with interesting and successful businessmen from around the continent. Inspirational stories of success amidst dire straits and tough conditions in the African nations. An inspiration to myself and to the African youth. The event also confirmed how important it is to unite the continent in a free trade agreement. 2018 has seen an improvement in many aspects of Egypt, and looking forward to an eventful and fruitful 2019. Yes, Hakim for CGTN, Cairo.
Well, we've got all the sport coming up after the break, including Egyptian weightlifting team steps up preparations for 2019 competitions.